If Josh Naylor was nightmare fuel for the Chicago White Sox, Kyle Manzardo is definitely on some kind of list at Kauffman Stadium as the Guardians take 2 or 3 from the Royals on opening weekend in 2025 without Jose Ramirez on Sunday. This is Locked On Guardians.
Tanner Bibee of the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
On into another episode of Locked On Guardians. Guardians take 2 or 3 from the Royals. We will talk about that today on this episode. We'll talk about Jose Ramirez and the risk there. We'll talk about the Guardians' patient offense and the signs we needed to see. We'll talk about bullpen regression. We'll talk about starting pitching and, of course, Kyle Manzardo. Thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day. Wherever you get podcasts, we are free everywhere, and it is our favorite half hour of the day, and we are happy you are here with us. We hope it's your favorite half hour of the day as well, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We cover your Cleveland Guardians every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And I am Justin Latta, one of your 2 co-hosts for Locked On Guardians. I have been writing about the Cleveland Guardians minor league system all the way back since 2007. I'm getting ready to start year 17, 18. My math is not mathing right now, but it's been a long time. News Herald, Morning Journal, Guardians Baseball Insider previously, Prospects Live, next year at cleveland.substack.com, where you can find a lot of that minor league work. And here.
And I am at year 6 here at Locked On, host of Locked On Guardians, Jeff Ellis. Hard to believe, 6 years. I'm looking forward to seeing what random gear I get this year from Locked On as my anniversary gift. But before that, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst at Scout in 24/7. It was a fun, occasionally stressful weekend. It's early. You always want to take that thing. I guess I haven't done the full math, but before the next 10 minutes, I'll let you know where we'd be in a football season right now.
Not very far. I'm going to guess 1 game in football season terms.
Oh, not even that.
Not even a game.
No,
I
don't even think we're done with the first quarter. So it's 17 games now.
Yeah, it's a translation I don't want to do over my head. All right, Monday morning headlines. Jeff, I think my Monday morning headline for the Guardians after this weekend is patience, young Padawans. This is still a young team, not the youngest team in the league anymore, but they are still, I believe, the 4th youngest team. And this is the most patient, series. I don't know. I really don't. I'd have to go back to my virtual Rolodex in my head to think about it last year. But, one of the things we talked about over the offseason and just in general with this team the last couple of years is how they don't draw walks and they try to, rely a lot on average on balls in play because they make a lot of contact, they don't strike out, but they never had the walks to support it. You can't. It's the reason in years past offensively where it was so hard to sustain a rally is because you're hoping for 3 or 4 hits in a row, right? When you add in some walks and then you get 2 hits or something like that, and one of them's a big hit, your crooked numbers go a lot higher. And the Guardians, I think it was over 400 something pitches they saw this weekend, almost 500 pitches, I think I added up. So it was something like 160 pitches a game that they saw this weekend. I will take that very much. I mean, 4 walks against Michael Wacha, 6 total in this game, and even 4 more on Saturday, the game they didn't win. And they had a chance to win all 3 of these games. The offense could have been a little better on Saturday, but it really wasn't necessarily their fault why they lost that game. We'll get into that, but I don't know. It's just nice to see quality at bats. Like I was at the Cavs game on Sunday, but I was watching from the bar area for early on, and I'm watching Bo Naylor, who didn't have the greatest day, but he had like a 9-pitch at bat, and Nolan Jones was 1-2, and then came back to 3-2 and worked 2 walks, and Carlos Santana's having a 7-8 pitch walk. And Kyle Manzardo is 2-2 in a count. Like, it's just really nice to see this team going through and taking pitches on the edge, and these pitchers are living on the edge and hoping to get them to nibble, and they're just not, which I feel like was kind of the scouting report on this team a year ago, is if you were around the zone, they would swing and they would make contact. Last year they were what did we say last year? They were like one of the bottom 3 teams in baseball in terms of chase rate. Well, this year, Jeff, through 3 games, in terms of chase rate, they are, I believe, 3rd best, 2nd lowest, 19%. Just just below New York, who doesn't chase anything because they're hitting nothing but home runs over the fence with their giant bats, which we'll get into tomorrow.
Yeah, a year ago they were 23rd in baseball in just total walks, nothing beyond that. Fangraphs hasn't updated. They were coming into today at 7, would have put them at 16 because they had 7 in their first 2 games, and they added the 6 more today. So I'm willing to bet tomorrow they're probably, if we looked at the stats, would be top 10. I know I must have done my math wrong because I have them on pace for close to 700 walks, which would be more than anyone had last year. So I'm assuming my quick math was wrong. For those who are curious to go back, we are 1 1/4 quarters into an NFL season right now. So that is where that is. But who knows? Maybe I'm just off on math today. But it stands out because we spent last year talking about how they needed more patience. They needed more of, guys who could take a walk, who could work counts. And we're seeing it in spades. And I mean, hugely benefited them today in particular, because while Kansas City's bullpen got a lot better in the back end, their 7, 8, 9 is a lot stronger. Their squishy middle is a very squishy middle, and that's where Cleveland did a lot of the damage today. And a lot of teams, the squishy middle is not great. And if you can get to that part of it, you're going to benefit. And that's what we saw all weekend. Now, today was a little frustrating at first because you're getting 2 guys on an inning without much to show for it. Hopefully, things will come together, but it's also kind of amazing too. They were doing all that without Jose, and we'll talk about Jose later on the show, but it was a great performance for them as a team. A lot of guys stepped up, and I think we got to change our discussion and start talking about who's going to be the right-handed platoon caddy for Kyle Manzardo at this point.
I mean, it'll be David Fry eventually.
No, but Fry's there to hit lefties. We need someone who can hit righties because
with Kyle Manzardo, lefties.
Season, everything was lefties.
That? Yeah,
I think all of his extra base hits were against lefties in this series, unless I'm wrong.
Series, yeah, they were. Yeah, 2 off Sam Long, which we can get in more about Manzardo about that. But how you get into the squishy middle of a bullpen, how you get it deep into a team's bullpen, is you knock starters out early. You knock Cole Reagans out after 5 innings. You knock Michael Walk out after 4 innings. When you are forcing these pitchers to go out and not get into the 6th inning. Even Seth Lugo, they didn't beat Seth Lugo, but they scored 3 runs against him. Seth Lugo was a tough customer for them a year ago, and he threw 86 pitches in 5 innings, and Michael Walker threw 87 in 4 innings. That's how you get into the squishy middle of the bullpen. That's how you get the Sam Longs and the Chris Strattons. The guys at the Royals don't necessarily want to have to put into leverage spots. They want to go to Hunter Harvey. They want to go to Lucas Erceg. They want to go to Carlos Estevez. Just the same way Cleveland wants to go to Cade Smith, Tim Herron, and Hunter Gaddis and Manuel Clase. They had to go to Joey Cantillo in this one and some other things like that. We'll get into him too. That's how you get into those bullpens like that. It's not necessarily hitting them. It is hitting them, but it's forcing them to throw a lot of pitches. And it just felt like that was something this team was lacking. And that's, of course, not to say that, after 3 games, this offense, this is how it's going to work all year, and they're going to be getting deep in every team's bullpen every single game. There's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be swings and misses, and there's going to be times they are frustrating. But I still feel like this was part of their philosophy, right? Santana is a big piece of that. Nolan Jones is a big piece of that. We already know Kwan can have a good at bat. And I think Kyle Manzardo was also
did it in the
showing
minors
he can
too.
do that. Yeah, Bo was almost borderline passive in the minors. He did have that one good at bat. It wasn't, he didn't have a great day, but he didn't really get a hit with that at bat, but he moved a runner up and he had a long at bat. So, and how many times have we seen that too, where, a guy in front of another guy in the lineup goes up there and has this, 8 or 9, 10 pitch at bat, and he doesn't get a hit out of it, but the guy behind him benefits, right? That's usually sometimes how you see it in baseball. We've seen that in Cleveland for sure. And I think that's the big piece of this lineup. When you have guys in your order, especially in the middle of the order, and non-Jose Ramirez guys, right? When you have non-Jose Ramirez guys who are having 8, 9, 10 pitch at bats, that helps everybody else. Everybody else sees the stuff. It wears the starter down. The longer you go in at bats, the more likely you are to get a mistake. The pitcher is tired. And the hitter's tired too, but it's just so beneficial. There are a lot of kind of untrackable benefits to that. And I think we've seen that, like I said, we've seen the Jose Ramirez over the years, and to have a lineup that can do more of that, I think just has a lot of potential, and they have to keep it up. And we'll see if teams will come in the zone against them more often and force them to swing and do damage, because the kind of things we've seen in the past is, oh, well, this guy's not going to swing at these pitches. Well, let's just force him to swing. And if he doesn't do any damage, why do we care about pitching around him? Because that was part of Stephen Kwan's change, was like, okay, well, I have to be able to do more damage. So teams are not, are afraid to come in the zone against me. And that helped them out the first half last year. So teams will adjust to this approach, and it'll be incumbent on Cleveland to adjust back. But it's hard to really find a ton of flaws about what they did this weekend offensively.
Yeah, I mean, they have a 95 WRC plus. You'd like to see it get up over 100 as a team, but that is not counting today's game. Again, that's just the first two games, and I'm looking here. Can't match the Yankees 243. Just talk about ridiculous things this weekend.
They're swinging oars, so yeah.
They got wiffle bats. It's wiffle bats. That's what it is.
It's an oar, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, that's tomorrow's show. We got to talk about these games because they were fun games, and like everyone came. Major League Baseball needs to do something, in my opinion, but we'll talk about that tomorrow.
We'll talk more about that tomorrow, yeah.
But like Manzardo really drove them on Friday. Saturday's game, there was enough there, and Gavin pitched well. Are we going to do pitching in segment one? Should I wait to talk about just how good the start? I think we should save that for segment two, right? But it's like they did enough. They could have easily swept this series. Pitching, we have to discuss when we come back from the break here.
Yeah, we'll talk about pitching. We'll talk about the bullpen. We'll talk about Bibee, Gavin Williams. We still have to talk about Jose Ramirez. We got to look ahead to San Diego this week. We got some nickname submissions for Kyle Manzardo, and we also have some of listener Monday morning headlines too that we'll get into on the rest of this episode of Locked On Guardians. The March Madness that is going on. We are finally in the Final Four. FanDuel is giving you a chance to get in on the action like never before. If you are a new customer, you can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on buzzer beaters. There are no Cinderella stories. They're all number ones. So those are out of the equation here. But you can bet on who is cutting down the nets for the $5 bets and $200 in bonus bets. If that wins, it is all chalk. You can't really go with the underdogs, but have yourself a little bit of fun. I think everyone's going with Duke. I picked Auburn. I will tell you, I picked Auburn to win it all. I'm not going to come close in my bracket, so be careful, be responsible, but have some fun. It should be some good games, even though there's no Cinderellas. It should be a lot of fun because these teams are really good. They're there for a reason. So visit FanDuel.com, get on the college hoops action all tournament long while it lasts. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen. We're glad you're here with us. If you like what you're hearing, make sure you tell a friend to, talk some baseball with us. We love it every day. We're here 5 days a week. Make sure you're downloading. Make sure you are on audio. Make sure you have the bell hit on YouTube so you don't miss a video. We're not trying to spoil any games for people, but we are putting up reactions to games after they happen. So just be aware of that because that's how we work. And if you like what you're hearing too, and you want to text with us during the game, if you want to get news before it happens, before it gets public, insights on the game, some additional written content, some additional bonus episodes we'll throw out from time to time. You can become an insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnGuardians. That's on your YouTube screen. It's in your episode description. We'd love to chat with you during games and when news happens too. I'll be providing some observations next week when I am at my first captain's game. I can tell you that. So we'll get into those throughout the year. All right, pitching. So you want to start with Gavin Williams, I guess, then?
Yeah. I mean,
chronological.
You could start with either. They were both great. They were both fantastic outings. But Gavin is Gavin, right? Like he's been the story of camp. So it was nice to kind of, see if it would hold up, as he was kind of the story of the last camp as well.
Yeah, for both good and bad reasons last spring. I thought Gavin was good. He didn't miss a lot of bats, to be fair. Like I was expecting a little more bat missing because he did that really well in spring training. But it's also spring training, so you have to kind of take some of that with a grain of salt. The velocity held. He was consistently 95, 97, 99 a couple times, and I think I saw like the vertical break on his fastball wasn't quite the same as it was in the spring. We'll see if that can work itself out in the regular season at some point. But no, he was good. He was overpowering a lot of times. Guys were not making great contact. The fourth inning, he just allowed some traffic out there that hurt him a little bit. And then, in the sixth inning, he also left runners on, and, Cade Smith got blooped twice. I wasn't concerned about that. He got blooped twice. Those runs came around to score because 2 bloopers, forced in the traffic that Gavin left. So, you don't necessarily like not being able to put guys away in those situations. He's going to have to work on that. And I think that's going to happen when you have a fastball heavy approach, right? When guys know you're going to be throwing the fastball 50 or 60% of the time, they're going to sit on it. So he's going to have to, I think, work in the curveball and the slider a little bit more, and as that goes along, so he can put guys away and not have those guys stranded with high pitch counts. But yeah, he was good, and Tanner was good too. I mean, the first inning, you're a little concerned. He was walking guys, and he was having some long at bats, but he reined it in, and he didn't miss a lot of bats either. But he pitched really well. He had guys guessing. The sinker, the backdoor sinker was working for him. The high fastball was working. The changeup was working. He was getting a lot of pop-ups with the fastball high in the zone. So just really looked like a complete pitcher, and pretty impressive for a guy who, was having a hard time, staying upright a couple days ago due to sickness. So, and I know some people were not happy with, we got some messages in from our insiders about, well, why are they pulling him in the 6th inning? They let him pitch to Bobby Witt. I think that was a nice, push there. Let him face Witt for the 3rd time. Didn't get him. Walked him with a couple high fastballs. I would have been fine if he would have faced Vinny Pasquantino, given the lead and given his pitch count. But I also understand that, again, 48 hours ago, Tanner was sick, and he might still be dealing with, some fatigue from that, and it's the first start of the year. So I don't necessarily have a problem with remembering this is hopefully a 6 or 7 month season, and you're playing into October, and he's going to hopefully have 180 to 200 innings. So I don't necessarily mind that from that end either.
Will anyone get the 200 innings again? That's a good question. I would have liked.
You're hoping.
I mean, I just think in baseball in general, we're starting to get to the point where we're, it's one of those things that's, I see a lot of people comment or complain about not going deep, and this is baseball nowadays. It's most guys are kind of like, you're not going to push a 3rd time through the order, especially early on, and. Both these guys ended up throwing 2 hitters. Now, in my opinion, Tanner should have been a 1 hitter because Stephen Kwan just lost that baseball. But I mean, Tanner went out against a team that made the playoffs a year ago and went, 5 1/3? Is that what it ended up being in 5 1/3, 5 2/3? Didn't he record at least 1 out there?
2.
So it was 5 2/3. Yeah. I would have liked to have seen him face Pasquantino as well. At that point, it wasn't already 6-0 at that point, or 5-0 maybe.
It's 5. It was 5.
Yeah. It's like, okay, even if Pasquantino gets to you, then you're at the bottom half of the lineup. Like this is the situation where I would have been okay pressing in. Especially because Pasquantino has been, he had a solid weekend. I'm not gonna say he was like a killer. Witt actually kind of struggled, but I would have liked to have seen that as well. I also understand they want to get innings for guys. Like it might have been as much about getting some guys reps as it was like getting Cantillo into a game where you felt comfortable having him pitch from a big lead. Whereas if Pasquantino comes up and homers, then it's a different ball game. Then you got to go back to the guys who've already pitched in game 1 and game 2, which I think they were hoping to avoid in this one. So I understand the logic. I don't love it, but I understand it. Looking at the grand scheme, though, those 2 guys were awesome. And again, not the best lineup in baseball. Let's be very honest about that. I'm looking forward to seeing them with the next team they face.
Yeah, the Royals lineup is not bad, though. I mean, it's not the best, but
it was bad a year ago, and it's not much. I mean, Jonathan India is the only big change.
Well,
it was a bad offense a year ago.
The top 4 is interesting. Hunter Renfroe can hurt you. Salvador Perez is good. Pasquantino is good. Witt's
Hunter
good.
Renfroe didn't hurt anyone except himself a year ago. He was really bad last year.
He was, but I mean, he can. He has been known to. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the top 4 is definitely dangerous.
No, it's solid. Yeah. But yeah, I think last year, like if I just look at WRC plus, they were better than I thought. They were 20th in baseball, but still not grand. I mean, Cleveland was 17.
Yeah. All right, we got to talk bullpen. We got to talk Kyle Manzardo a little bit more. We got to talk some headlines. We got to talk Jose's wrist. We're going to do all of that here in just a second on Locked On Guardians. All right, let's start with the bullpen a little bit. I mean, because we'll talk about Jose here as we wrap things up. But, I think we all saw, I'm not saying we all saw that. We did all see this coming. We did talk about bullpen regression a lot. I don't know if I thought it was going to smack him right in the face the first weekend because, I don't know, do we count Joey Cantillo as part of that? I don't necessarily know that I do because, he's not a guy who was in the bullpen a year ago, and we don't really necessarily know how the bullpen's going to suit him long term. But, Cade Smith, like I said on Saturday, got blooped a little bit. I'm not necessarily concerned about that. Heron was good all weekend. Gaddis was shaky on Thursday, and he was better on Saturday. I thought there was still some, he walked a batter in. Could be a little bit sharper, but he looked a little better. And then, Class A hits Jonathan India. It's unfortunate. And then he put things away after that, thankfully. But definitely some bullpen, I guess, shakiness early on. Obviously, Class A blew the save, and then Paul Sewald gives up the home run on Saturday, which, we said Thursday how great he was. Saturday he struggled. So
yeah, it was a regression day for him. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel very comfortable with hardly anyone coming out of the pen. Like, just with the way they pitched and looked. Like, one of the things from a year ago that was completely unsustainable for this team was the strand rate and the percentage of guys that, when the Cade Smiths and the Hunter Gaddises came in, that did not score, did not advance. And, they were brought into some tough situations. And unfortunately, in those games, like Cade Smith didn't give up a run, but but those were 2 on Gavin because he couldn't get things put away. Gaddis gave up, was it today? It was in Sunday's game. He gave up a run where he inherited, and he wasn't clean again today.
He walked in a run. Yeah.
He walked in. It was a tough situation after what Cantillo did. So it's, again, you're probably, I'm fine with what Gaddis did. You'll take one run in that situation and get out of the inning, honestly. But Class A to me was the most encouraging outside of, again, just, you never want to see that. You don't want to see, especially with as hard as Class A throws. That's just terrifying. But I understand India being ticked off 100%. Like, if anyone gets hit in the face with a baseball, they have a right to be mad. But very clearly, that's not what he wanted to do. He wanted to come in and have a simple 1-2-3 inning because it wasn't even a save situation, right? It was just come in and get things have been tough for the team. They already had him up and pitching, I think, because of what was happening with Gaddis. So might as well have him go. And so, yeah, when I look at it, for a bullpen that a year ago almost never had a blown save situation, every single game the bullpen was shaky, and that's going to happen to some degree. I do think that it'll balance out and be a strong group all in all. Like, most of those guys, like the FIPS look good early, things like that. I do have some guys that I'm a little more concerned about than others, but yeah, I think is at this point in time, is McKenzie the only guy we didn't see pitch from that pen?
Yeah, Sewald went, Junis went, so yeah, it was in Cantillo went. So McKenzie's the only guy that didn't get into a game of the weekend, and you're going to have to get him into a game, I think, in San Diego just to get him on the mound again. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they'll find a good spot for that, but you never guaranteed an ideal spot for that. Today was ideal for Cantillo, and Cantillo was all over the place, and I'm not really going to be concerned about that either because it's the first time he's pitched in a while. He's in a role he's not really used to. And you did put him in the best situation possible, and it just didn't go well. And we'll see what happens the next time out. Obviously keep an eye on, I think, the second lefty situation for Cleveland throughout the year because we have no idea about Sabrowski at the moment. I don't know if he's even on a throwing. Let me double check the game notes to see if he's.
I feel like he's not. I could be wrong about that. I'm always willing to admit I could be wrong, but I feel like I haven't seen anything about that yet. And at the same time, like, I also don't know. Like, he looked really good a year ago. He looked good at various points. He's probably good to go, but we also don't have a long track record even with him. So just the flammability of all bullpen arms just always makes me a little more nervous with everyone.
It does. I don't think we're necessarily fine with are you talking about Sabrowski?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know you can say you're fine with Sabrowski only because he's had 2 Tommy Johns and now he is dealing with a third elbow issue here. Last check, Sabrowski is expected to resume mound activity in mid-April, so he's not even throwing as of right now. I guess this whole the second lefty thing probably is probably something to keep an eye on throughout the year is what I would say, and see how they figure that out throughout the season. Parker Mashinsky and Misiazik have both thrown in Columbus so far. So who knows how that all plays out. But yeah, I mean, I think you're just going to see some inherited runs, and that's just going to happen, and they're going to have to reassess things and figure out how they get things back to normal and kind of work their way through it throughout the year. But all in all, I mean, if you have one game that didn't go your way this weekend when your bullpen wasn't necessarily at its best, I think that's still a pretty good victory. And
100%.
even better is that you won a game without Jose Ramirez. And we all want Jose Ramirez to be okay. And we're talking about patience when it comes to hitters. That's such a big deal with hitters, is patience. I don't necessarily like seeing lineups 2 games in a row or a game and a half in a row without Jose. But I'm glad that they are holding him out. Agreed. And not letting him play through it. I mean, I saw, what was it, 2022, where he played through that thumb injury all year.
According to Tom Hamilton, he wasn't even trying to play today. That's the shape his wrist was in. That he said on the radio today that he wasn't even, that he understood, and that he didn't feel ready to play today.
Yeah, they said it was mostly just inflammation related, and they're waiting for the swelling to go down. The imaging was all good on it, so there's no real issues. But wrists are dangerous for hitters. That's a thing you cannot mess with, and it could have very long-term negative impacts if you don't take care of it right away. So if Jose has to miss 2-3 games right now to be better later in the season, perfectly fine. I think we've seen in the years past how often Jose is playing through something, and he should be on the injured list or should be sitting for multiple days in a row and just to let it rest and heal. And I would rather have him do that now. We just haven't seen that in the past with him, and I guess definitely not a great sign that Jose knows that this is not something he can play through right now. But I will take it as a sign, good that they're at least not trying to have him in the lineup when he definitely shouldn't be, because just I've seen that before and it just doesn't end well.
I think 2 to 3, you're lucky if that's all he misses. Like going through and finding all the recent examples of wrist sprains because of how it can get worse or wrist sprains are often like multi-week injuries for people and players, and sometimes could be multi-month injuries that don't clear up. So going through the most recent wrist sprained examples I could find, almost every single player was put on the 10-day DL. That's just the approach to this injury. Typically, they're not doing that. They're going to see he's not, the broadcast made it pretty clear that he's not going to play on Monday. And they're going to just kind of keep going and seeing, when he can maybe feel good enough to play. But I almost wish they just put him on the DL so you took it out of his hands. Like, oh, we can't play you. You're on the DL for the next 10 days. And because, I mean, a lot of wrist sprains for players are, a lot of the ones I was looking at, a lot of the data was like 2 weeks before that guy came back. So I think, they had to have gotten very lucky. And it wasn't just wrist sprain. He also did a lot of like cosmetic damage to his hand, and that could affect just, the way things were and going. I mean, they said he was bleeding profusely when he slid into the base awkwardly. So I think the other takeaway from this is that we should just ignore those 40-40 things because it's not worth the risk.
Yeah, probably not. Not that's how it's going to go. That was a really bad slide. The Guardians did not have a good weekend running the bases.
No. Brian Rocchio needs to stop. He's just, his defense is spectacular. His foot speed is not. Yeah,
the defense, he made a really nice defensive play on Sunday too. And the at-bats were, okay sometimes. He had the double play, which kind of stunk. Jeff, who were the 3 stars of the weekend? I guess Kyle Manzardo, easily the number 1 of the weekend.
Yeah, so on my little sheet,
star, as it were.
Manzardo is the only person who got the double, got to multiple stars on it. So I think it'd honestly have to be Gavin Tanner and Kyle. Like for me, that's the 3 guys who stood out the most. Said Sunday's game was the hardest one in terms of having too many guys that were good, and then Saturday's game was a little bit harder to come with another option. But I think for me, it's Manzardo, Williams, and Bibee.
Yeah, those are all fair options. I mean, if we're not talking about Lively, because Lively, I think, deserved one for what he did Thursday. How about Gabby Arias and Daniel Schneemann? Didn't even mention them. I mean, Daniel Schneemann had a couple walks, a home run. Gabriel Arias, we've seen that opposite field power from him before. That was really nice to see. I also thought his at-bats were pretty good, too. He was looking, again, very patient, wasn't chasing out of the zone necessarily. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but I thought the at-bats were pretty good. I was pretty encouraged by some of his at-bats over the weekend. So a lot of good signs there.
No, I mean, we have to talk about Schneemann because he went 4 plate appearances on Sunday and he reached all 4 times, like 3 walks and then the home run. Like he was one of my 3 stars for Sunday. Gabby got squeezed out, but Schneemann, he started out hot a year ago, so I'm curious to see. But that's the one thing we can say about him that he does bring is patience. Like that has been another strong suit for him, and he showed it on Sunday. So you're looking a great performance by him, and that was the bottom of the lineup. Really helped this team go. And then, I mean, God, if the Royals, if Stephen Kwan ever hits free agency, the Royals should throw all the money at him because apparently he turns into like Lou Brock when you put him in that stadium. Maybe it's only when you face the Royals, or maybe it's that particular stadium. But boy, does he hit well in KC.
Yeah, I didn't even mention him as a star. He had 3 hits and an RBI on Sunday. He had a hit and another home run
over the weekend.
Yeah, he had a home run and a walk on Saturday, and
he did make Saturday's sheet list for that.
Yeah, I mean this is how you sustain the offense without Jose Ramirez. If he does miss any extended time, you get hopefully guys like Kyle Manzardo step up like he already has. The other thing Kyle Manzardo I want to mention too is just like the home runs he's hitting. I don't want to be a wet blanket here, but like I don't understand why Royals pitching through left-handed pitchers even were throwing inside fastballs to him. Like I'd have to go look at his heat maps from a year ago. I haven't checked that out, but I can't imagine
those.
Yeah, I don't understand why they're throwing inside fastballs from the left side to Kyle Manzardo. I have to assume the obvious is that the league is going to adjust to that, and he's going to get soft stuff away, and they're going to force him to adjust. That's what I was assuming, and early on, he's not getting that. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a mistake. And then Sam Long came back and did it again. So maybe it's a Sam Long issue, but keep an eye on where lefties are pitching him, because right now it seems like lefties are coming in on him with fastballs, and I just am not expecting that. But he's at least aware of it. He sees it, and he's taking advantage of it. So keep an eye on what happens to him in San Diego, what they figure out over there. Real quickly, too, let's run through some of our insiders' Monday morning headlines. Jeff, you can give me some ratings on these, or some thumbs up or thumbs down. Aaron says Manzardo is no mirage. I would say that's pretty fair. That's was good one, all weekend long. Yeah. Ethan says Kyle Manzardo. All needs to be said. All it needs to be said is Kyle Manzardo. I like that. Every headline here basically is Manzardo. Jim Manzo mashes lefties. Yeah, true. I mean,
100%.
He did all weekend wrong. I like this one. It would be great if it was true. Andrew says it's official. Kyle Manzardo, the next Travis Hafner. Is he going to hit 6 grand slams this year?
I don't want to put anyone in the pronk category. Such a rare category, at his peak that, me, I'm always more conservative on those things.
Yeah. Josh said balanced team wins. That's true. The Guardians were very balanced, at least offensively, which was good. We did have a headline submission. Cardinals sweep the Twins. The Guardians get with their series win. Yeah, the Twins were not good over the weekend in St. Louis. That was not. I mean, Joe Ryan had a great performance. The Twins bullpen was pretty awful. They're 0-3. Things are not good in Minnesota right now, I will say. That can only benefit Cleveland. Anthony says Manzardo MVP coming soon. So if Jeff doesn't want to put him in the Travis Hafner category, I can't imagine, Jeff, you want to put Manzardo in the MVP category, but he is up there right now for I think he's 3rd for homers.
He's been spectacular. There's no way around it. He's been spectacular. I'm just always I slow play.
Yeah. This was a good nickname. Manzilla ravages Kansas City pitching. Yes, he did. Manzilla. Right. What do you think about that?
I do like that one. I like the Godzilla reference in there. I'll take that one.
Yeah, I've heard a better one. I think it's is it Matt or David who keeps calling him the Manzalorian. And I'm like, I think the Manzalorian is a good fit. I like that one. Rich was happy about no structural damage for Jose. Is Manzo a real thing? The pen will be all right. 2 out of 3, not bad. I like that. This is a good one from Anthony. No torpedo bats necessary. Guardians take 2-3 at KC. Yeah, they're not doing the torpedo bats.
Yeah.
And the Guardians still win. Yeah, that might be a fad that's coming everywhere. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. Yeah. Corey says Manzardo is the KC killer. That's a dangerous headline. But like I said, if Josh Naylor was in the White Sox nightmares, then Kyle Manzardo is certainly coming for the Kansas City Royals peace of mind, I will say. Jeff said Zard leaves the way. The guard leaves the yard. The mustache marvel stays even keeled. I like that. Mustache marvel. Zard leaves the yard. I like that. Dominic said close to a sweep. Guards settle for a series win behind Bibee. Like that. Drew just said Kyle Manzardo, good ABs all weekend long. Kyle Manzardo can hit lefties, and then Carl said 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Definitely not bad. All right, on tomorrow's show, Jeff, we're not really going to look ahead to Kansas City. What matchups? I have to look. We can probably really quickly preview the matchups for Kansas City. We know it's
You mean
Luis
San
Ortiz.
Diego? It's Ortiz versus Hart, the lefty
Kyle
who
Hart.
came up from Korea. Then it's King versus Logan Allen, and then after that it is Dylan Cease versus Ben Lively.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough series. Ortiz and Hart, that's a toss-up because nobody really knows much about Hart and how it's going to look for him. I don't think he was great in spring training.
He was,
but neither was Luis Ortiz. So that's going to be interesting to find out. Allen and King is a big mismatch. We know King really shut the Guardians out a year ago with San Diego. And then Dylan Cease is really good. Cleveland's had a very hard time with Dylan Cease over the years, and he's facing Ben Lively. So from an offensive standpoint, and especially if Jose Ramirez doesn't play a lot this week coming up against San Diego, it could be a tough series offensively. So we'll see what happens out there in Kansas City. It might be needing the bullpen to be really good out there in Kansas City to hold things down. Their lineup's not that great either. I mean, they've got a great top of the order, right? They've got Tatis, they've got Machado, Cronenworth's good. Bogarts was not good. I think he's been a little better this year so far. So they've got some dudes, but the bottom half of the orders, I mean, I didn't even mention Jackson Merrill's awesome. The rest of that lineup, not so awesome. So we'll see how that goes too. For tomorrow, obviously the Guardians are playing in San Diego. Full disclosure, Jeff and I usually record about the time that the Guardians in San Diego will be having first pitch on Monday and Tuesday. So what will happen on Monday and Tuesday when those games are going on, we're still going to be recording on a normal time. Monday, we're going to talk about the minor leagues for the Guardians. We're going to do a little bit of minor league Monday on Tuesday. We're just going to talk about Columbus's opening weekend. We're going to talk about the rosters throughout the system, things like that. We'll talk about some trends on Tuesday. We'll do Tuesday trends. So it'll be a new thing we'll discover. We'll talk about the San Diego series as the game is going on. We'll talk about the what are we calling those bats again? What are they called?
Torpedo
bats. We'll talk about the torpedo bats on Tuesday as well. So torpedo bats, Guardians minor league system, Tuesday trends, and we'll get some stuff peppered in throughout the game from the Padres series on Monday and on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Thank you all for joining us. Remember to rate and review, hit the thumbs up and the bell, tell a friend, leave an iTunes review, and go Guardians, go.